What's up guys, Ryan here from Mudgunner. Today I have a pretty fun topic to talk about. So I just did a video the other day where I interviewed a bunch of YouTubers from SHOT Show on what gun they would choose for the zombie apocalypse. And all their answers were pretty interesting. A lot of your guys' comments were interesting. So I thought today I might as well talk about what I would choose for the zombie apocalypse. I got a question in the comments from Sick Johnson. You asked me what I would choose for the zombie apocalypse, and then you asked some other questions, and I thought it was a pretty good question. So this is the rifle that I would choose for the zombie apocalypse, within reason. And I say within reason because there's one thing that I would probably change, and that's the optic. So this is a Daniel Defense. This is a 12.5-inch barrel. It was actually my very first AR. I've done a video on it before. Some stuff has changed since that video, but yeah, this was my very first AR. It started out life as a 16-inch AR, and then when I turned 21, I SBR'd it. So right now it has a 12.5-inch barrel. It's a Daniel Defense barrel. So I basically tried to keep it all Daniel Defense as much as I could, but yeah, it's their 12.5-inch barrel, their 10-inch rail. I did a Geisley SDC trigger, Radian safety, and then this has a BCM charging panel. Other than that, you know, it's mostly the same, but those are the upgrades that were done to the gun. And I say this would be my main rifle for the zombie apocalypse as of right now, but if I had to pick, I love EOTech. If I had to pick, I'd probably choose an Aimpoint T2 because of battery life. But if let's say it popped off right this second, this is what I'd pick. And I do try to be good with this and have it set up in a way that it's very usable. I love EOTechs. Unfortunately, if it was my everyday gun for years on end, I'd probably run through a lot of batteries. Now, with that being said, I have 2 spare batteries in the grip. I have 1 spare battery in the vertical grip. But yeah, so I just kind of store them. They're wrapped up in paper towel and they're in a plastic bag so they don't rattle, but yeah. Extra batteries is kind of a must with EOTechs because they are a high use or a high drain optic basically, but that's the only thing that I would say is lacking as far as a end of the world zombie gun is a good battery use optic. But EOTechs are amazing optics as far as durability goes. I'm not worried about it breaking. I'd more or less be worried about battery life. But I do have iron sights on here, so if I flip my magnifier over, I do have iron sights. Now the cool thing with running iron sights that are properly zeroed is I can pop this EOTech off, pop any other red dot on, and I could zero the red dot to my iron sight. So that's something to think about. Chances are if it's the zombie apocalypse and you've survived for years, you're probably not going to be running the thing you started with. I mean, you may not even have the same gun, but I could at least go through optics and zero the optics to my iron sights. I also have a Surefire Scout Light Turbo. So it takes rechargeable batteries, but it'll also take 2 CR123 batteries. And again, batteries would probably be the thing that you need in order to make it work long term. But I have 3 batteries on board, and hopefully CR123s would still be somewhat findable, but who knows. But yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about what I would use, and I'll try to keep this video short. Obviously, the topic can go on forever. Like, there's so much to talk about, and a lot of the YouTubers gave me pretty good responses. I thought some were pretty well thought out, and I like that Graham Thumb chose a 12.5-inch barrel because that's what this is. But again, this was my very first AR, and I've built it up into this over the years, and I'm pretty happy with it. I've never had any issues. As far as the suppressor goes, I would run this because this is my very first suppressor. Doesn't necessarily color match, but this is the Silencerco Omega 300. It's a 30 cal suppressor. It's very quiet. I have no issues with it. I've taken this gun hunting once so far, and yeah, I got a javelina kill with it last year, and yeah, it's a good barrel length for self-defense and for potential hunting, because if we're talking zombies and you can only have one gun, you're going to need it for more than just killing zombies. You are going to need it to potentially get yourself food. So I think a pistol is a really good choice. It's the ultimate conceal option, but it's not the greatest for attaining food, which I think you'll probably need to do at some point. You can scavenge food, I'm sure, but when all that is gone, you are going to need to be able to take something out. So AR, I think, is a good choice for that. And an AR in America is probably the most practical because, again, parts are the most available for it as a rifle goes. 5.56 is probably the most common rifle round we have here in the States. And overall, it's a very reliable system. I think a direct impingement AR is one of the most practical ARs as well because it's the most parts available out there. So piston ARs are very nice and they run clean, but they are going to be a little bit heavier. And then if anything broke, you are stuck until you get that exact part, which realistically, you're not going to get. So I think a direct impingement AR is good. And what's nice with an AR, again, is you can run multiple uppers. So there are probably millions of uppers in this country, which is good. And it's just 2 pins. You pop 2 pins, you have different upper, And let's say you get to a point where you can even have your own little base or a group of people that you can rely on. You can have different uppers for different purposes, hunting, CQB, whatnot. The nice thing about a 30 cal suppressor is this is kind of a flow through can. Since it's a 30 cal suppressor, it's got a bigger hole in the front, so some of the gas escapes out the front. I'll show you guys a video of me shooting it right now. Yeah, so a 30 cal suppressor on a 5.56 AR is very soft shooting. It's softer shooting and quieter than my Surefire RC2, and that is saying something, but 30 cal suppressors are very nice for multiple uses, and this gun's pretty small without the suppressor on there. It makes it very comfortable for shooting. In its current configuration, it weighs 9 pounds for the whole setup. If I add the suppressor, it weighs 10 pounds. So something to think about. Obviously that's not a lot of weight, but if you had to carry it all day, every day for the rest of your life, it's something to think about. And also on a side note, fitness is very important. If you can't run for your life, you're probably not gonna make it. I obviously don't look the most fit, but I do ultra marathons on the side. I've done tons of ultra marathons, tons of marathons, tons of Spartan races. So I think being physically fit and being able to hold stuff is very important. And as far as like concealability goes, right? You probably do not want to walk around the zombie apocalypse in full kit. You'd probably stick out like a sore thumb. So one thing I liked about Milspec Mojo's answer was he was talking about, you don't want to stand out. You want to be, kind of a gray man in the zombie apocalypse. But he was talking pistol. I still think rifle's a little bit better for just overall. But again, with everyone's answers, I only gave him the question, what would you pick for zombies? Obviously, you guys can go, and I think us as Americans and people in general, I think we all secretly want to test our skills with zombies. If it's Walking Dead zombies, you can give me any gun, and I'm pretty sure I could take out a lot of them. But if it's 28 days later zombies, and there are living people involved that could screw you up, something different. But I think an AR is a good choice. And a pistol, if you could do both, that is obviously ideal. For a pistol, I want to say I would choose my Shadow Systems because I have like almost 10,000 rounds through this gun. But again, as far as practical and parts availability, a Glock 19 is probably the most practical. So if I had to pick two guns, it'd be my AR and my Glock 19. But again, I only asked them one gun for the zombie apocalypse, and they just gave me their answers based off that. That was a very short time. I think if any of them had a little bit more time to think about it, their answers could have changed, but I just asked them right on the spot and those were their choices, and I'm very happy with how everyone answered. It gave me stuff to think about too between adding all their answers up. And maybe it gives you guys something to think about. A lot of you guys commented in that video on what you would pick. If you didn't, comment down below on what you would pick and why, and I'll try to read as many of them as I can. As far as concealability goes, right? So again, you don't want to walk around in full kit because you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. I think, aside from the 30 round mag I'd probably have in the gun, ammo storage, I have this little six magazine pouch, and this is kind of like, not a gray man pouch, but it is a very concealable AR pouch that doesn't, stick out like a sore thumb. So I would probably run it like this, and then I'd have a backpack. And then if you're a lot more mobile that way, plate carrier would be nice. I'd be less worried about getting shot. I'm not saying it couldn't happen because obviously people are shitbags, but I think a backpack, this 6 mag pouch, and this AR would be all I need to get myself to safety and maybe move around, because I live here in the city. Unfortunately, I'm not out in the woods, and everyone that says they're going to go to the woods, I say good luck to you. I would say my plan, if zombies popped off right this second, would be to try to stay in my house as long as I can. Stay in a familiar area as long as I can, because I know the area. I know most likely where to get food and water if I needed to. It's when you go into unknown territory that things can get a little dicey. I mean, it'll be dicey where I live anyways, but yeah, I think I would try to stick with familiar ground as long as I can. So, I mean, I'm at my house, I got ammo and whatnot to spare, but yeah, familiar ground. And then after that, it's gonna have to be travel light. So maybe one gun, some ammo, and a backpack. And obviously we would take the world with us if we could, but realistically, that's what I'd pick. I liked watching Walking Dead growing up. That show came out in 2010. I was like 14 at the time, and I watched it till up to like season 7. But it's just crazy to see how they progressed over time, what they would carry, how they would react in certain things. And obviously, the biggest threat became people more than anything. I mean, zombies were just an added liability, but people were the biggest threat. And again, I think it's kind of like that perfect balance of being strong enough and physically fit enough to take care of yourself, but not look too intimidating because then you're a target for everyone else. And then just not being a total like useless weakling during the zombie apocalypse. But what's nice about a backpack, and this is just an Under Armour backpack. I've used this for concealed carry for many years for a 7-inch AR, but let's say you had to travel, right? And chances are you're not going to be able to walk around with your AR slung 24/7. So I think as far as concealability goes, if you need to move and the threat of people is not as big, being able to avoid zombies is the biggest thing. So if you had to store this, you can take the upper and lower part. So the zombie movie I told everyone was 28 Days Later. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend watching it because I'm not an expert, right? But I would say I know zombies. I've seen almost every zombie movie growing up. I played a lot of the games. I would say 28 Days Later zombies are probably the most realistic because they're basically people with rabies. And that's scary to think about because they still all have all of the normal function. You know, they can run and they have some, you know, physical strength. But I don't see Walking Dead zombies as being realistic because they're basically cold-blooded, you know, death machines at that point. They basically bypass biology. So I'm not worried about Walking Dead zombies. I would much rather have Walking Dead zombies, but I think I would be more worried about 28 Days Later zombies. So I think being able to store your AR while moving is important. So right now I have the gun, my suppressor, all in this backpack, and I can travel with it pretty easily. And I think that's going to be the best way you can move around without drawing a lot of notice because it doesn't scream, you know, tactical. You know, this might raise some eyes, but the backpack doesn't scream tactical. And again, if you had to carry all your own stuff, you're going to be very limited on what you can bring with you. But I like the idea of this AR because it fits in my backpack and it's still useful for, again, hunting, zombies, and whatnot. It's not the quickest to deploy, but if you had to just hide it for a minute, I think it'd be helpful. So relatively quick to deploy, but just depends on what you might need it for. Now, one other thing that I'm going to talk about is this piece right here. You may have wondered what this is for. If you watch 28 Weeks Later, which was the sequel to 28 Days Later, in that movie, Jeremy Renner plays a badass military guy, and he kills a lot of zombies with an AR, with an EOTech, but he is running a PVS-14 behind his EOTech, and he's killing zombies that way. That part was a little inaccurate on how they showed it and whatnot, but I'll let it slide. I have this thermal unit, and I can clip this on here, and now I have thermal in front of my EOTech. I can relatively use it with the magnifier thrown to the side. It's just a very, very small window. But with the magnifier thrown like that, it is very usable for, again, hunting or if I needed to, you know, see around in the dark. And what's cool with this is it's quick detach, so I can pop it off and use it as a monocular. So for nighttime, I think that'd be very practical. Obviously, I'd love to run around with a night vision helmet and all, but not going to be possible for the most part. So this is just nice because it gives me another superpower for dealing with zombie apocalypse. And it's more practical than the PVS-14 behind the EOTech. So adds another pound, so now the gun's just over 11 pounds, but it's doable and I can fit it in this backpack. If I pop it off, I can put it on a pouch maybe somewhere on my body and just have it as an option. Batteries, I haven't even double checked, but it takes these 18650 batteries. I don't think I can use CR123s for this, but if I had to do it in the apocalypse, it'd probably be fine. So this is limited use for zombie apocalypse, but I think it's more practical than the PVS-14 that Jeremy Renner used. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of get into this topic. Again, this topic can go on forever. We can get really far into it, but I wanted to keep it kind of short and just give my opinion on my zombie apocalypse gun. So let me know in the comments what you guys would choose and stay tuned for the next video.